As a representative of the lab, I will continue the presentation about the Iberian electricity market. First, I'll be presenting the structure of electricity market, then explain some particularities about the market, like the spot and derivatives market and retail market, and then I will pass to some considerations. The structural organization of the electricity market reflects the organization of the market itself, mostly resulting from the common liberalization process in Europe. In this sense, the organization structure reflects the existence of a vertical chain of activities that can essentially be characterized in three key aspects: energy production, transmission and distribution, and marketing. The production and marketing of electric energy is open to competition and is economically justified by the introduction of a greater efficiency in managing and exploiting resources allocated to these activities. Market regime electric energy production is associated with a wholesale market where producers ensure energy will be made available and buying agents may buy it to fulfill their portfolio of supplies to end users or for their own consumptions. Marketing activities is associated with the retail market, where markets compete to ensure the supply to final consumers. The operation of electricity wholesale market in the MIBEL is centered on the existence of a series of contract types that complement one another. These contract types are a reflection of a specific of how electricity sector operates, primarily of the fact that it is a sector that operates according to simultaneous equilibrium between production and consumption, and that therefore does not support the temporary arbitrage that takes place in other markets. Thus, the MIBEL wholesale market currently comprises derivatives market, spot market, ancillary service market, and bilateral tradition market. Currently, the liberated market and the regulated market coexist, thus allowing the customers and to negotiate their energy contracts with the supplier in the liberated market and to remain in the regulated market. In the production, Portugal and Spain are integrated into a single market in which the price is equal in about 95% of the hours, reflecting that the interconnection capacity allows the optimization of the use of the most efficient plants in terms of hourly cost across these two countries. In future markets, prices are published by MIBEL, which is a Portuguese poll, and daily and intraday market prices are published by OMEL, which is the Spanish poll. The MIBEL is composed of the main markets and the adjustments markets. The main markets are the futures market, are the forward market for medium and long-term trades, and the daily or spot market for the short-term trades. So the spot market is composed by daily market, which sets the electricity price for 24 hours of the following day. Prices and volumes are determined by the equilibrium between supply and demand for each hour of the day ahead. The MIBEL intraday market was conceived to function as an adjustment market. It aims to provide a match between supply and demand that is more precise and closer to real time that allowed by daily market. In this way, possible misadjustments in successive stages of daily programming are resolved. This provides great flexibility to agents' operations, allowing a very considerable degree of optimization of the portfolio according to the needs of each agent in a variety of time horizons, and with the same guarantees in terms of transparency and of supervision possibilities that characterize the daily market. So electricity spot price curve is characterized by a high frequency resulting from variations in demand and production capacity of technologies that depend on the atmospheric conditions, mean and variance not constant due to socioeconomic factors such as fuel prices, policy to encourage clean energy, or even geopolitical factors, multiple seasonality due to consumer needs, and for final high volatility due to the high number of variables influencing the spot price. One of the most notorious features of electricity price is their extreme volatility. This means that through the year, there may be subtle variations in spot price, which are commonly called spikes and jumps. The value of electricity price is obtained through the combination of supply and demand of electricity. When consumption is high and a large part of the electricity energy comes from expensive energy sources, just a small increasement in consumption is enough for the price value to rise considerably. In the same way, even if the consumption remains constant, spikes can appear if the cheapest mean of production are withdrawn from the service. Although the Portuguese and Spanish electricity markets operate as a single one, electricity transactions are conditioned by the interconnection capacity between the two countries, which is sometimes lower than the volume of energy to be transported. The formation of price in short-time markets is directly related to the interconnection capacity between Portugal and Spain, as it is insufficiency can result in the separation of the markets and consequently in different electricity prices in the two countries. If the quantity of electricity destined for export or import through the law of supply and demands are less than or equal to the interconnection capacity in the same direction, transmissions take place at the border. In this scenario, the price of electricity is unique for Iberian Peninsula. Otherwise, interconnections are interrupted and prices are formed from aggregate demand and supply curves for each country. In the future market or forward market, medium and long-term contracts are established. In this market, agents submit their offers depending on their willingness to sell or buy electricity. Prices are determined through the law of supply and demand, as in the daily market. Indirectly, these offers reflects the perception of that each agent has about the average spot price during the delivery period of the contract. That is, future price can be considered as a spot price forecast. More precisely, future contracts include the obligation to buy or sell a specific amount of energy at a specific future time or at a specific price. These contracts have daily financial settlements between the agreed price and the variable spot um, market price of these contracts. The parties do not interact directly with each other, and the clearinghouse is responsible for settling the, the daily margins and the contract on the delivery date or period. Physical delivery is optional. Forward contracts imply a commitment between the parties to sell or buy a specific amount of time, of electricity, a specific future period for a specific price. Unlike future contracts, forward contracts only settle on a single date on which energy is delivered and payment is made. Buying and selling agents are not directly related to each other, and the clearinghouse is responsible for the settling the daily margins and the contract of the delivery date or period. In this case, there are no financial settlements, and the physical delivery of energy is always necessary. In swap contracts, there is an exchange of positions with a variable price for a position with fixed price, and the opposite may occur depending on the direction of the exchange. This type of contract is intended to manage or take financial risk, and therefore there is no delivery or underlying product, but only the settlement of the corresponding margins. The market operator also makes available what are called options contract, which by definition it is a negotiable contract as a position in an organized market, where a call option is an agreement whose party by paying a fee acquire the right, but not the obligation to buy one future contract from the seller of the option with a certain period for a certain price. And where a put option is agreement with party by paying a fee acquires the right but not the obligation to sell one future contract for the seller of the option at a certain period of time at a certain price. Now, we can take a look in the electricity bill composition. Consumers' electricity bills include a free component and a regulated component. The free component corresponds to active energy, where prices and quantities are negotiated on the wholesale market through the trader. In both the liberated and regulated market, consumers have access to the network upon payment of the tariff, which covers transport and distribution costs, the cost of infrastructure and service used by all consumers, including general economic interest costs and costs related to other service present in the system, including social tariffs. In terms of commercialization today, there are almost 14 electricity suppliers in Portuguese free market. Now, as I said before, the price and cost of energy is dynamic, and like most commodities of the world, it depends on the pull and push of demand and supply, the competition in the market, and the taxation among other factors. Other factors could include the energy mix used in particular country, the amount of energy that is imported, the geopolitical conditions, and environmental protection costs. In these images, we can see the electricity price in the first half of 2021, where Europe recorded an average of 0.219 euros per kilowatt hour. In this image, we can see the prices further down in 2020 as a result of COVID-19 pandemic, which triggered travel restriction globally and locally. Then last year, the economic recovery prompted a new wave of energy demand, which further increased during the summer when sweltering temperatures pushed people to use air conditioning and cooling systems. East Asian countries then joined Europe in the quest for energy to kick-start their COVID-ravaged economies. However, the growing demand was not met with the growing offer. Very briefly, the main reasons for the exponential increase in the price of electricity were increase in the cost of natural gas and CO2 emissions allowances, with the progress of deactivation of coal plants, combined cycle plants fueled by natural gas became more used. Since the beginning of the year, the cost of these raw material has doubled, which has a direct and immediately impact on the wholesale electricity price, which are linked to the short-run marginal cost of gas-fired power plants. In addition, when electricity production uses fossil fuels, the emissions of the pollutants that occurs has to be compensated with the acquisition of CO2 emission allowances, the price of which has also doubled. These allowances are politically created instrument that aims to put a cost on greenhouse gases. In the European Union, prices under the emissions trading systems have recently started to rapidly approach 15 euros per ton, in part reflecting expectations that the European Union is commitment to delivery on the clean energy transition. Moreover, it was recorded less production of electricity for renewable sources. These are by definition intermittent, as we cannot rely at all times on their 1% availability to guarantee the demand. Therefore, without wind, sun, or rain, its contribution is compromised. And for last, and as I said before, high demand. The economic activity start to recover after the pandemic. So when buying electricity on a fixed price variable volume contract, the retailer effectively accepts the full financial risk associated with the spot price volatility and the risk that the consumer increase its consumption during times of high spot prices. A retailer typically charges a price premium in exchange for accepting these risks. Consumers buying their electricity on arrangement linked to a spot price should be cautious of the financial risk involved with this approach. A rise in the in spot prices will feed through into their electricity bill, and it is important that consumers can tolerate tolerate any such cost increase. A frequently debate measure is the use of price regulation or target price restrictions. But importantly, price regulation, in particular at the electricity wholesale market level, is not allowed under European Union legislation. While price interventions like caps on prices, bites, or revenues may appease some concerns in the short term, they risk jeopardizing border objectives such as further innovation in market offerings, competition, and trust in wholesale markets. This in terms of risks leading to lower participation from potentially competitive suppliers, as well as demands for high risk premiums. And this in turns may further aggravate those high prices with which were the political impetus behind those some interventions in the first instance. So, well, Signing a corporate power purchase agreement can be a possible solution in this way that reduce in the way that reduce financial risk for buyers and sellers alike. Corporate renewable power purchase agreements can provide the security of returns which a developer of renewable power plants needs to secure lending to build the project. A green corporate PPA enables purchasing a percentage of electricity that it is consumed at a large stable price over a certain period of time, and thus and thus edging its electricity cost at least proportionally against electricity price increase. In some scenarios, it is possible to even save on electricity tax or grid fees, which thus generates even further savings. Um, in addictions, new forms of PPA are emerging that are specifically designed to enable better risk management. Among them is the proxy generation PPA. This is based on the renewable fuel input on the project rather than the metered energy generated. In this way, it ensures the operational risk remains with the project rather than being passed on the off-taker, allowing off-takers to hedge other risks through the insurance and commodities markets. On the commodity markets, both buyers and sellers can use trading on an energy exchange to manage PPA risk. For example, using so-called futures to manage price risk, or hedge wind solar generation profiles. To finalize, electricity prices are highly volatile, and it is essential for all markets participants to have access to the most correct and accurate forecast possible. Although it is practically impossible to predict the occurrence of spikes in values of prices, the use of efficient um, forecasting models can considerably reduce the harmful consequences that they can bring to all those involved in the energy market, whatever producers, customers, or energy traders. Energy markets play a central role in the driving border decarbonization objectives, as these markets provide the primary price signals to drive desired behaviors, such as, for example, greater efficiency efforts or decisions on a new investments. Such markets are important to ensure that choices made in their coming years are efficient, lowering overall system and transition costs, a factor which in turn is likely to prove key for overall affordability long term. And like this, I finish my presentation.